Good evening and welcome to Northbeat. I'm Lainey Lambrink. Residents in the Yukon's fastest growing neighborhood say the government needs to step up services. More than 4,000 people call Whistlebend home, and that number is expected to double in the coming years. As the neighborhood grows, it has been split into two new ridings, Whistlebend South and Whistlebend North. As Julian Green reports, some voters want the community to become more livable.
You'd be hard-pressed to avoid construction in this part of the city. Mixed housing builds, daycares, development is ongoing. It's been like this for years. And some residents told us people keep moving in, but not without some growing pains.
Connectivity for active transport is terrible. You can cycle around Whistlebend. I cycle into my job in downtown, but not a lot of people do because the routes are dangerous and they're just plain bad for cyclists.
That one small business is called Yukon Mart, which opened late last month. The co-owner also plans to open up a bar next door. He says the neighborhood needs to be more self-sufficient.
If they want to get like some drinks, for example, they can just walk and get it, right? And they don't want to drive to downtown, especially busy hours. Same to that, a lot of people in Whistlebend, and it's still growing, right? So you need more service businesses here.
As it stands, all parties have candidates in each riding, but only one candidate on the ticket has held political office before, and that's only since 2021. That'll make the race in each of the ridings something of a wild card. Julian Green, CBC News, Whitehorse.
The leader of the Yukon NDP says she doesn't regret propping up the last territorial government, but that it's time for change. The NDP signed a confidence and supply agreement with the minority Liberals in 2021. That agreement was renewed in 2023, and it kept the Liberals in power until the territorial election was called this month. NDP leader Kate White says it was difficult to work with the Liberals, but her party was able to secure things like the creation of a publicly funded dental plan, increases to the minimum wage, and more support for schools. White says those NDP-led initiatives have had real impacts on Yukoners.
So that is what the focus was for me always. And every time I was frustrated and every time I wanted to blow it up, and I had to be like, is this about you, Kate, or is this about Yukoners? And so I'd take a deep breath and I'd be like, okay, this is the next thing that's coming and it's really important. And so I have no regrets.
White says there's still work to be done. She says the Yukon NDP's priorities include fixing problems with the territory's healthcare and ensuring that substance use services are available in rural communities. The territorial election for Nunavut is now less than 2 weeks away. For Nunavut who can't vote on October 27th, important dates are coming up next week. The CBC's Maknoor Mubarak shares them with us.
Nunavut who can't vote on October 27th in the regular territorial elections have options to vote earlier. Advanced voting is on October 20th. Early voting is also available at the office of the returning officer in some constituencies until October 23rd. If you're outside of the territory or even out of your home community within Nunavut, then you can use a mail-in ballot to vote. You have to apply to be eligible. The form is on Elections Nunavut's website. The deadline to apply for the mail-in option is October 20th. People who work in mines and people in correctional facilities can also use this option. Another way people can vote is through mobile poll. That's meant for people unable to leave their homes and make it to polling stations in person, such as people with disabilities, elders, and caregivers. Contact Elections Nunavut or your local returning officer to schedule a mobile poll. That'll take place on one day only, 7 days before the election. If you have an emergency, such as a broken leg or something you can't control, you can call Elections Nunavut to make arrangements to vote. Each call will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Maknoor Mubarak, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The Northwest Territories Council of Leaders has returned from Ottawa. They met with federal officials to help raise the profile of the NWT. This year's delegation included the Premier, territorial ministers, and Indigenous government leaders. The CBC's Shannon Scott spoke to Premier R.J. Simpson about the outcome of the visit and what the territorial government is hoping for from the upcoming federal budget.
We've asked the federal government for increased support for fighting wildfires, so we need more equipment. Like the rest of Canada needs more equipment as well, right? But we need more equipment, more planes, more funding to get crews out, things like that. We need housing funds. We have, probably 1,000 homes, public housing units that need to be replaced. They're old. Some of them are built with 2x4, walls, and the insulation has fallen in the walls. Real problems like that. So we have asks in for things like that. We actually have a couple of shovel-ready projects for the Mackenzie Valley Highway. Some bridges that need upgrading. That would help our winter road seasons as well in the meantime. And so we have asks out there for that as well. We tried to keep the number of asks relatively limited because in the past I think that there's been sort of a scattergun approach where we need so much in the territory. We're so far behind the rest of the country in terms of infrastructure and things like that we sort of ask for everything. But the signals or the discussions we had with the federal government were that focus on what you really need and it's a higher likelihood that you'll get it. So if we know exactly what you want, we don't have to try to figure out which of these 50 things is your priority. There's a better chance of getting it.
Something more focused.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned the Mackenzie Valley Highway a couple of times now. You've set a timeline of breaking ground in the next 2 to 3 years. How did you get any commitments or any interest from from Ottawa while you were there on that project?
We didn't get any commitments. It's still going through environmental assessment. We're working with the Pedzike First Nation and Wrigley on some alternate routing options for a certain segment. And so, once all of that's done, it's going to be a couple years out, and by then I'm hopeful that the federal government will have provided enough information that we'll be able to get some financial commitments, whether that's through a renewed program, infrastructure program that they have, or whether it's just a direct contribution for the highway. I'm hopeful that next couple of years is going to give us the runway we need to get those commitments.
Can the territory build that highway without money from the feds?
No. I mean, we're over $1 billion. And when I talk about the Mackenzie Valley Highway, I know that the first phase is up to Norman Wells. But when I talk about the highway, I talk about the highway all the way north. That's the vision of the Mackenzie Valley Highway. And so when we're talking about that length of road, it's in the billions. So if we could do it by ourselves, we would have done it already.
A murder trial in Yellowknife is into its second week today. Zach Lafferty is charged with second-degree murder and the death of a 17-year-old in Betchicall in the summer of 2023. The CBC's Tamara Merritt has more from the courthouse.
Zach Lafferty is charged with second-degree murder in the death of Dejan Drybones. In the trial today, the court heard from Corporal Greg Morrow, who is the primary investigator on the case. During the Crown's questioning, Morrow said the decision to arrest Lafferty came because of an audio recording where Drybones said he had been stabbed by Lafferty. Morrow also told the court the police searched Lafferty's home and the house where Drybones was found, but the murder weapon was never located. During questions from defense, Morrow said the police found Lafferty's phone in the same home, along with phones belonging to some other witnesses. Last week in court, the jury heard from the Crown's witnesses and experts. Testimony included comments from 4 people who were with Drybones the night he was killed, RCMP officers involved in the investigation into Drybones' death, and the forensic pathologist who performed the autopsy on Drybones. The trial continues tomorrow with final submissions from the Crown and defense. Tamara Merritt, CBC News, Yellowknife.
4 people have been charged in connection to what Edmonton police are calling an elaborate opium poppy growing operation. Investigators say they discovered up to $500,000 worth of the plants growing on a property in the city. Sarah Reed has the story.
Edmonton police have discovered more than 60,000 opium poppy plants being grown on a property in the city's northeast. And they say that this is the second largest seizure in Canada. Now, Edmonton police say that these plants aren't commonly grown in Canada, which makes the discovery surprising. They also add that they believe the poppies were being grown behind a residence in a field. Now, opium poppies are illegal in Canada because they can be processed to make heroin and other drugs. The plant can also be used to create Dota powder, which experts say can then flow into Canada's illicit drug market.
It contains opium alkaloids, including morphine and codeine, which can pose a risk for toxicity. And there have been cases of overdose and death arising from consumption of poppy pod tea or poppy seed tea. Obviously, it's not as immediately toxic or acutely toxic as some of the synthetic opioids that we see, but it does still pose a risk to people who are using it.
Edmonton police say that in this case, the plants were being used to create Dota powder to be sold in Edmonton. And they say that the plants aren't native to Canada and that they were likely imported. Now, police have charged 4 people in connection to what they're calling an elaborate growing operation and say that the plants had a value of up to $500,000. Sarah Reed, CBC News, Edmonton.
A downed power line cut electricity to some Iqaluit residents on Saturday morning. Iqaluit RCMP say a vehicle hit a power pole in front of Arctic College and knocked it over. Police, the fire department, and EMS responded to the scene. The driver of the vehicle had minor injuries. The Hulik Energy Corporation shut the power off in downtown Iqaluit while crews worked to repair the line. RCMP have not laid charges. Canada Post workers are now partially heading back to work. After 2 weeks of strike action, the mail service shifted to rotating strikes on Saturday. Canada Post workers in Nunavut are part of a different union, but mail stopped coming north when Cup W went on strike because people who process that mail were part of the job action. One Iqaluit resident says interruptions to mail services hit people in the north hard.
They have to understand this too. It gets hard for our people. Prices get bumped up every time they go on strike.
Canada Post warned customers on Friday there'd be uncertainty and instability in its service moving forward because of the rotating strikes. The owners of a Yellowknife institution are preparing to sell their business. Weaver & DeVore has been a family-run shop for nearly 90 years and a staple of Yellowknife's old town since it opened in 1936. The store sells outdoor supplies like camp gear and winter clothing, as well as souvenirs and groceries. Ken Weaver is the co-owner and grandson of founder Harry Weaver. Earlier today, he told CBC News that staff are counting inventory as part of the sale process. Weaver did not say who was buying or when the store would change hands.
Welcome to Lilith Fair. Singer Sarah McLachlan has launched an all-female tour.
I was in disbelief that I'd never heard of it before.
Paula Cole, Erica Badu,
Sinead O'Connor,
Missy Elliott,
Sarah McLachlan, Sheryl Crow, Jewel.
Promoter said, you can't put 2 women on the same bill. People won't come. And it put a huge fire under my butt to prove them wrong.
Women singer-songwriters in the 90s. They're my Northern Stars.
This is much bigger than what we even thought it could be.
On your marks.
Get set. Miracles never cease.
They're making more money than they have ever made in the history of the music business.
I'm a nanny.
Like Mary Poppins?
It's like the Force. Sorry, have you seen Star Wars? No.
Very predictable, you know that?
I'm hardly predictable.
Watch me follow my every move.
I'm trying very hard not to connect with people right now.
Wonderfully vibrant cuisine.
Salted egg yolk, Dungeness crab.
The most generous people you'll ever meet.
We always want to share the best with you. That's how we show love.
Lavish celebrations.
If this is where Filipino food is headed, I'm so proud.
Beautiful.
The city was under a state of emergency.
When you want news,
was found alive.
We are here for you.
CBC News, Ottawa.
And here.
Winnipeg. Whitehorse.
And here.
Cote-du-Lac.
Saskatoon. And here.
Montreal.
Calgary.
Vancouver.
Charlottetown. Dartmouth.
A man purchased this box.
What did he look like?
A man. Normal. Not particularly attractive. And he's standing right behind you.
So, you want to watch the CBC News streaming channel? You can, wherever and whenever you want. Here's how to find us. We're on the CBC News app, on CBC Gem, and on your smart TV. Stream anytime, it's always free. CBC News.
One person is dead and 2 are still missing after the remnants of a powerful typhoon hit several small Indigenous communities in Alaska over the weekend. It brought hurricane-force winds, ravaging storm surge, and floodwaters that swept away homes. As Juanita Taylor reports, the aftermath is revealing a long road to recovery.
49 coastal communities in western Alaska have been hit by the remnants of Typhoon Halong. That's according to the Alaska Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Homes uplifted and swept away in a chaotic surge of rising water.
The house is unlivable. We can't live in there anymore. This is the worst ever. Kipnuk is totally wiped out.
Carter lives in Kipnuk, Alaska, a Yupik village where roughly less than 600 people live, where communication was cut off. The Alaska Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management is working to set up satellite internet. In a press release yesterday, it says Kipnuk's runway has also been damaged. Another community, Quigalingok, also got hit and has lost power. Roughly 400 people live there. That's where Alaska state troopers say one woman was found dead and 2 people are still missing. The U.S. Coast Guard has been deployed and a drone will be used to help in search and rescue efforts. Dramatic video shows people getting rescued from rooftops. Weather Services says a significant storm surge saw hurricane forces reaching 160 km/h winds.
The remoteness of some of these villages, it's hard to get information to people in a lot of these areas, and for some people the storm came so quickly, the floodwaters rose so quickly, it was too late before they got the warning.
People who have been displaced, some of them have been sheltering in schools, but efforts are being made to find them somewhere more suitable. Food, water, and other essentials are being coordinated to get to those who need them the most. Now, it's not clear when we will know the full extent of the damage, but what we do know is that it will be a long road to recovery. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Flooding and mudslides in central and southeastern Mexico have killed at least 64 people and caused widespread destruction. But the full extent of the disaster may not be known for days. Mexican troops are now in the region helping to search for dozens of people still missing and to bring supplies to the hundreds of thousands who have lost homes. Torrential rains last week triggered flooding and landslides that destroyed buildings and bridges and left streets filled with mud and debris. Many communities remain inaccessible and cut off from communication. New U.S. tariffs on imported timber, kitchen cabinets, and upholstered furniture came into effect today. They include a global tariff of 10% on all softwood lumber entering the U.S. That's in addition to a 35% duty already in place on Canadian softwood.
Fundamentally, what we need to do is we need to buy more Canadian. We need to help our workers in the sector. We need to be there for the softwood lumber industry.
Finished wood products like vanities and kitchen cabinets have also been hit. They face a 25% tariff until the end of the year and a further increase to 50% starting January 1st. Upholstered chairs, seats, and sofas are subject to a 25% duty. That rate is scheduled to increase to 30% at the start of the new year. Canada is the source of about 85% of the softwood lumber entering the U.S. President Donald Trump announced the new tariffs last month. The rise in the cost of living has also seen a rise in payday loans. CBC News has obtained data showing a massive increase in the number of payday loans being taken out in New Brunswick. The average amount being borrowed is also significantly higher. Rachel Cave looks into the factors behind it.
When it comes to paying the bills, more and more New Brunswickers are turning to payday loans. In 2020, New Brunswickers borrowed more than $5 million, and year over year, they've been borrowing more and more, ticking past $20 million last year. The rules say one loan per time, per customer, per lender, but there's nothing to stop a consumer from spreading their loans around.
We do see people with multiple payday loans, and really when we see that, a lot of times people will say to us, I had no choice.
The federal government set a new limit on fees this year, a maximum $14 per $100 borrowed. That adds up to a $42 charge to borrow $300. That's more than the cost of borrowing on a line of credit, overdraft protection, or a cash advance on a credit card. Money in Your Pocket in St. John's North End is the only licensed storefront in the province. CBC News stopped by several times, but lately it's been closed. The other licensed payday providers are all online: Speedy Cash, iCash, GoDay, and Loan Express, promising loan approvals within the same day, within the hour, or even within minutes.
So that immediate need or the ease is what they're looking for. It could be those who are vulnerable community members that just don't know the other options that they have.
If the loan is not repaid on time, the lender can charge a $20 fee plus interest at a rate of 2.5% per month.
And it revolves. You take a loan this month, you pay it the next month, you have to take another one the next month because you've used next month's paycheck to pay last month's loan.
People who teach financial literacy say just about any other type of credit is better, but they also hear borrowers say the rising cost of food and housing is making it harder to cover the essentials, let alone an unexpected expense such as a car repair. And they hear many people feel they have no choice. Rachel Cave, CBC News, St. John.
The Blue Jays are off to a rocky start against the Seattle Mariners, with the team still winless after 2 games in the American League Championship Series. Here's what one of the Blue Jays pitchers had to say after some time to shake off last night's loss.
They're here for a reason. They've played their way to this point, just like we have. So you have to go out and treat them, like they're one of the best 4 teams left in the league. We're going to be prepared for the next game. And I think our offense and our bullpen are going to feel, what has kind of happened already to this point and make adjustments, the adjustments that are necessary, and we're going to be good.
With the Jays now in a deep hole, Greg Ross looks at what Toronto needs to do to get back in this series.
For many Blue Jay fans, it may seem like the sky is falling right now. Their team is trailing 2-0 in this best-of-7 American League Championship Series against the Seattle Mariners. And it's not just the fact that they've lost, it's how they've lost. They were absolutely blown away Monday night in Game 2, losing 10-3. And when you see a score like that, it's easy to assume that pitching is the problem for the Blue Jays right now, but they will tell you no. It's their offense. In the first 2 games of this series, the Blue Jays have scored only 4 runs. Contrast that with the American League Division Series against the New York Yankees, where the Blue Jays scored 23 runs in the first 2 games. Just about every player who spoke to the media after that Game 2 loss said it. They need to find a way to get more hits, and they need to find a way to produce more runs. With the team now off to Seattle, the mood back here in Toronto, it remains pretty grim. The city has been through this before with their sports teams. Surely we've seen this with the Leafs and even the Raptors. You may remember back in 2019, the Toronto Raptors playing in the Eastern Conference Final against the Milwaukee Bucks. And they lost the first 2 games of that series in Milwaukee. You're probably thinking, okay, but that's a different team, different sport, different set of circumstances. But the mood in the city right now, it is the same. And after the Raptors lost that second game in Milwaukee, there was an exchange between Kawhi Leonard and a reporter. You may remember this.
Where do you go from here, Kawhi? Where do you go from here?
We're going to Toronto, Game 3.
Kawhi wasn't focused on the past. He was looking ahead to the future and the task at hand, and that's exactly what the Blue Jays say that they're going to do. Although they won't be coming back here to Toronto like the Raptors were, they have to go to Seattle, and they have to find a way to win on the road. And they also have to face some pretty cold, hard facts. When you look at the history of Major League Baseball, only 5 teams have ever come back in a league championship series after dropping the first 2 games. And those facts get a little colder and a little harder when you consider that no team has ever come back in a league championship series after dropping the first 2 games at home. If the Blue Jays are able to pull this off, it will be historic. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
That is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/north. Thanks for watching. I'm Leanie Lambrank. Have a good night.